So this video looks at color corrections in Final Cut Pro. So in this particular tutorial I'm going to be looking at what are called the scopes. Scopes are just another way of visualizing color information in your picture. So if you want to open up the workspace where you will have all of the windows for your color corrections, you can go into Arrange and Color Correction. So here on the right hand side you'll see the video scopes. The video scopes are a little bit scary when you don't know what they all mean, but they're all pretty straightforward once you get to know them. So what I have here is I've got a clip. It's actually a JPEG, and it has some color corrections that are going to need to be done to it. Before we do them, though, I'm just going to look at how these scopes relate to this particular image here. Okay, so we have 4 graphs here in our scopes. We've got the Vectorscope, the Histogram, the Waveform monitor, and the RGB parade. So we look at them all individually. Okay, so the waveform is a way of measuring where all of the dark and light parts of your image are. Now a waveform actually is representing visually the picture also. So if you look at the waveform here, it has a number of kind of cloudy areas spread around the graph. Now the number of horizontal lines here go from white down to black. So you can see that on the left hand side of this image, for example, we have a kind of a cloud of pixels here that relate to this area of relatively light tone here. We also have kind of a dark cluster down here which would relate directly to this. So we can see that where we have dark objects here, exactly what amount of darkness or lightness they have. Now as you move into the center of the image, you'll see that it's a little bit more spread out because you have all of the light parts of the flowers and the dark parts of the leaves represented here and here. So the waveform is a way of looking at where all of your dark and light areas are, but most importantly you're able to see where your lightest parts are relative to pure white, because when you go over pure white, your colors are no longer broadcast safe. And when you go below pure black, it means that you're losing visual information as well. You're crushing the blacks. Okay, so that's the waveform. The Vectorscope deals with the chroma, or the hues of the colors. So you can see here a number of circles, and it's kind of hard to make out here, but you'll see that this actually relates to our color wheel. So you have red, green, and blue, and then you have the secondaries magenta, yellow, and cyan. So this image has a color cast problem where it's predominantly yellow, and you can see that that's represented because the cloud of pixels here is moving out towards the yellow side of the color wheel. So if you wanted to do a color correction on this, you would be able to see it represented on the Vectorscope. The histogram actually tells you how many pixels you have in each tonal area. So this picture actually has quite a good tonal contrast in that it has some very dark black spread all the way pretty evenly up to some relatively light parts here, and then at white you have a few pixels that are actually spilling out over the edge. So this line here now relates to 100% or white, and the very left here relates to 0 or black. So this is like when you're doing your levels in Photoshop. So there are an even spread of pixels up to about here, and then you have quite a lot of pixels in the lighter part of the tonal range, and this relates to all of these light parts, the flowers and the wall here. Now importantly here we'll see in red that we have some pixels spilling out over the white, so we're going to have to do something about that as well. Finally we have the parade. Now, the parade just shows you pretty much what you looked at when you were looking at the waveform, except it breaks up the picture into its red, green and blue components. So we'll see that we have quite a lot of red here, quite a lot of green here, and very little blue. So if you know your RGB color values, you'll know that where you have quite a lot of red and green and not a lot of blue, that you're predominantly looking at a yellow image. Okay, so these are kind of what the scopes are doing. They're telling you graphically where all of your colors and your tones are. If you click on this button here, it allows you to turn up, just pull this up here, to make the scopes more or less visible. So if you want to turn them down so that you're looking more at the data, or turn them up so that you can see clearly where all of your graphs are, that's how you do it. Okay, so that's pretty much what the scopes do, and we're going to be coming back to the scopes a little bit when we go and do some color corrections and tonal corrections in the next tutorial.